Erev Shabbos. Rabbi Y.Y. Jacobson shares a deeply resonant insight this week. Two consecutive portions, Vayishlach and Vayeshev, you notice the same word being used. When Rashi comments on the word, he changes his commentary from one extreme to the other about what that word means. In this week's portion of Vayishlach, we find the term ish, man. And Yaakov was left alone, and a man, an ish, wrestled with him until the break of dawn. And Rashi explains that this man was the spiritual angel of Esav. In other words, this battle in the middle of the night between Yaakov and his mysterious man was part of the struggle that's been going on since time eternal between Yaakov and his brother Esav. In Vayeshev, we have the same term. Joseph, sent by his father Yaakov to go visit his brothers and seek out their welfare, and knowing full well that his brothers didn't like him too much, he nevertheless set out on his journey, got lost on the way, and the Torah tells us that then a man found him. And behold, he was wandering around in the field, and the man asked him, "What are you looking for?" And Yosef replied, "I'm looking for my brothers. Do you know where they're pasturing?" Who was this mysterious man, this Ish, that encountered Joseph at this vulnerable point? Rashi says it was the angel Gavriel, who is elsewhere referred to in scriptures as an Ish. So in Vayishlach it says that Yaakov remained alone and somebody wrestled with him, and Vayeshev, Yosef is alone. And again, somebody finds him, encounters him, and asks him what he's looking for. The same word is used in both cases, Ish. In one case it's the angel of Esav, in the other case it's the angel of Gavriel. So the late Satmar Rebbe, Rabbi Yoel Teitelbaum, shared the following teaching from Rabbi Chaim Chalverstam, who was known as the Divrei Chaim of Tzantz, who lived in the 18th century, early 19th century. Context is always important. In both stories, two people are vulnerable, father and son, Yaakov and Yosef. In Vayishlach, Yaakov remains alone in the middle of the night. He's been away from home for 34 years. He's facing the existential threat of meeting his brother Esav. In Vayeshev, Yosef is a young 17-year-old lad, lost and vulnerable. He's left his father, orphaned from his mother, on the way to brothers who despise him. He doesn't know it, but this journey that he's taking is going to take him to slavery, to prison, and to complete alienation from his family. Both of them meet a stranger. What does this stranger, this Ish, this man do? In Jacob's case, the man sees a lonely guy standing in the middle of the night and pounces on him. And in the second story, Yosef is also alone, and somebody encounters him. But what does he do? The man found him, and behold, he was straying in the field, and the man asked him, "What are you looking for?" He doesn't jump on Joseph. He doesn't exploit his vulnerability. He says, "Can I help?" "What are you looking for?" And Yosef tells him, "I'm looking for my brothers." When a man encounters a vulnerable person, seizes the opportunity to attack, Rashi says that kind of a person is an angel of Esav. But when a man encountering a vulnerable person seizes the opportunity to help, Rashi says you must be an angel of Gabriel. Rabbi Elisha Greenbaum, a colleague who's rabbiing in Australia, shares a similar thought as he tells us something that happened when he had only been the rabbi in his particular congregation for a short while. A man from the past expressed interest in rejoining the community. He'd never met him personally, but he'd heard all the history about this guy's leaving, and there had been unpleasant incidents and nasty things said and feelings hurt. And eventually there'd been a big blow-up, and then the guy had left in a huff. And now there's a new rabbi. Congregation seems to have a slightly different flavor. It seems to be regenerating, and the guy wanted to come back. The rabbi was faced with a dilemma, because while you're grateful for every new member and looking for more people in services, etc., there was concern that the tensions that had marked the previous relationship might find themselves resurfacing. He discussed his concerns with his father-in-law, the late Rabbi Zalman Itkin of blessed memory, whose yortzeit is this week. And his father-in-law told him, you know what? Kavod cost garnish. To give somebody honor doesn't cost you anything. Don't avoid the guy. Don't act toward him out of fear. Honor him. Don't fake it. And don't falsely flatter. Find something that you can genuinely admire and appreciate and concentrate on that. Focus on that about the person. Every person has things you can honestly respect about him. And let that be the lens through which you approach your interactions with him. Only a person who has no self-respect feels that he can't honor somebody else. The truth is that building up somebody else is never to your own detriment. It costs you nothing to give honor, but is very valuable to the ones that receive it. And it worked. He did his best to get to know this guy better, deliberately looking for things that he could sincerely appreciate and admire about him. And he discovered much that was good about this gentleman. Far from being a drag on communal development, he became a major supporter, even persuading friends of his to join the congregation. Show people honor, and they'll feel confident opening themselves to you. The better you get to know them, and the more time and effort you spend learning about them, the more you'll come to admire them, and then the cycle keeps on going. And that's exactly what happened to Yaakov. He knew that his brother Esav had resentment toward him. He thought maybe he intended to kill him. He was justly worried about the threat of violence, and he prayed, and he prepared for war. He offered a huge bribe. And you know what? Nothing worked. Esav approached, accompanied by an army of 400 mercenaries. And then Yaakov does something very strange. He bows down. He's not prostrating himself in fear, and he's not throwing himself into the mud to humiliate himself. He's bowing out of genuine respect. Respect for what? For the spiritual potential that Esav represented. Instead of concentrating on all that was wrong about his brother, he deliberately looked for something to admire, and when he found it, he bowed his head. And Esav responded in kind. In place of the anticipated violence, Esav reciprocated with love. When faced with his brothers bowing his head in respect, Esav raised Yaakov up and he kissed him, and for the first time in decades they had a fraternal conversation. They spoke as brothers, and instead of bringing up old recriminations and foibles over stolen blessings, Esav ceded gracefully and validated Yaakov's claims to the firstborn rights. All of Yaakov's fears were proved groundless. Instead of chas v'shalom, a threat to his life, Esav offered to accompany and protect him on the way. Kavod costs nothing. Find something to honor about everyone you meet. Give them that honor, and don't be afraid to bow your head in respect. Demonstrate self-respect by looking out for the good in others, and when you find their point of positivity, rather than vulnerability, polish it and allow them to shine. Especially when we encounter individuals who are alone, lonely, confused, or in pain. When we see them in their vulnerability, and we choose to emphasize their positivity, and we make a choice. Do we exploit them, or do we take an interest in them and honor them? We each have that choice as to what kind of man, what kind of ish we're going to be. An angel of Esav or an angel of Gabriel, empowering others to be angels in their own turn. Wish you a Shabbat Shalom.